Good morning, fifth graders. Today we're going to be moving on to a little bit of focus on the New England colonies. We're going to be learning about the New England colonies. We're going to be focusing on Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and then the other colonies in the New England colonies. Now let's look up at the top. Here is our title. Title is New England. And they give us a little bit of a timeline. They say this is going to be from 1600 to 1700. Fifth graders, that's like 300 to 400 years ago, over 300, 400 years ago. Since we're in 2020, that's quite a while ago. And so we're going to look here on build on what you know. Have you ever wanted to set a good examples for others? Puritan colonists did. They believed that they should set a good example for other people by following laws based on the Bible. So that's going to set the stage for learning about Massachusetts and why it was founded, since it was founded by those Puritans who wanted to make sure that they followed laws that were based on the Bible and what the Bible taught. Now, I want you to take a minute and I need you to go find a little buddy that you can do school with today. So get up, go find a stuffed animal, a picture, something. Ready, go. All right, hopefully you have a little buddy. If you don't, hustle back and grab something near you. And we're going to be doing some reading with your little buddy. So today, sometimes you're going to be reading with your buddy. Sometimes you'll be following along with me. This is one of those things, fifth graders, that you get out what you put in. So please make sure that you are putting in good effort. You are focusing. You're doing your very best. So that way you can learn the very most from this reading today. All right, so we've got our subtitle here, Massachusetts. And our main idea, religion was the center of Puritan government and community life. So they centered everything around their religion. All right, here we go. Let's go ahead and read. The Puritans were English colonists who settled in New England in the 1600s. These settlers wanted to form communities where they could follow the rules of the Bible and serve their God. Puritan religion shaped the government of the Massachusetts Bay Colony. Usually, only male church members could vote or serve in town government. Town leaders made laws to control how people worshiped. One law required all people to attend church services. On Sundays, the town gathered at the meeting house for church. The meeting house was the most important building in a Puritan community and was often built in the middle of town. All right, fifth graders, I would like you to take a minute. I want you to read out loud to your little buddy this last paragraph on the page. I'm going to give you a little bit of time, so I want you to pause the video, and I want you to read this out loud to your little buddy. Ready? Pause the video. Okay, hopefully you paused the video and just unpaused it and had a chance to read this section out loud to your buddy. So we're going to look at this. I'm going to ask you a question about this. Let's see. Where did the colonists hold elections and vote on laws for their towns? Where did they do that? Tell your little buddy, where did the colonists vote and hold elections and gather? All right, if you told your little buddy at a town meeting was where they gathered, a town meeting at the meeting house. So they met at that meeting house. All right, let's move on to the next one. Here we go. I'm going to read out loud a little bit to you, and then you'll be reading some with your buddy. All right, we're going to read a little bit about dissenters. Dissenters. Roger Williams above receives advice from, I don't know how to say that, Narragansett Indians in Rhode Island. Both Williams and Anne Hutchinson, right to the right, challenged Puritan teachings. Okay, so let's find out how they challenged those Puritan teachings. In Massachusetts Bay, everyone could attend a town meeting, but only men who owned property could vote. Even so, Puritans still had more self-government than people in most other European countries. When people make laws for themselves, they have self-government. So this is saying that only men who owned property could vote. So that would mean that I couldn't vote because I'm a girl. And then let's say you're a boy, but you don't own property. Maybe you, like, let's say if you were renting something, you wouldn't actually own that land, and so you wouldn't be allowed to vote at that time. So if I lived during this time, I couldn't vote because I wasn't a boy. All right. The Puritans had some experience with self-government in England. The lawmaking body in England was called Parliament. Some members of Parliament were elected by the people. All right, I'm going to read on to the next one. So this is all about Massachusetts. Now we're going to read on to Rhode Island. Some colonists thought that the Puritan leaders should not tell them what to believe or how to act. These colonists were called dissenters. Okay, so they believed that the Puritans couldn't tell them what to do. They shouldn't tell them how to act. They shouldn't tell them what to believe. A dissenter is a person who does not agree with the beliefs of his or her leaders. Okay, so if we look up here, Roger Williams and Anne Hutchinson, they were dissenters because they didn't believe that they did not agree with all of the beliefs of their leaders. Roger Williams was a dissenter who wanted more religious freedom. Puritan leaders, however, believed that everyone had to follow the same religious laws. Okay, so I have a question for you. I want you to think back. We're going to answer. It's going to be in this section right here. Right here. What did the Puritan leaders believe? What did the Puritan leaders believe? I want you to tell your little buddy, look back in the text if you need to. All right, you probably have found the answer. It says, Puritan leaders believed that everyone had to follow the same religious laws. Everyone had to follow the same religious laws. So this one's doesn't fit perfect in what we're reading about, but I'll go into the story at the end of this page right here. I got a story about my great grandparents, and they had kind of experienced this they wanted religious freedoms, and so I'll tell you about that. Williams believed that the government should not make laws about religion. Because of his views, Puritan leaders banished him from Massachusetts, so they kicked him out. To banish means to force someone to leave. In 1636, Williams founded a new colony that became known as Rhode Island. There, people could worship freely. Williams also kept the government separate from the church. This was an important event in the history of religious freedom in North America. Okay, so I'm going to ask this question. Now, this question, fifth graders, is going to be on your quiz, on your reading quiz for today. So I'm going to block off. This is where we're going to find the answer in this section right here. Right here. Here's the question. How was the government of Rhode Island different from that of Massachusetts? So I want you to read through here. You can read with your buddy. Pause the video if you need to, and try to figure out how was the government of Rhode Island different than that of Massachusetts. All right, if you haven't found the answer yet, I want you to pause the video and I need you to go back. I want you to try to find that answer. And we're going to look back through the text. So first we want to restate that question. So how was the government of Rhode Island different from that of Massachusetts? So I would restate with what it's about. The government of Rhode Island was different from that of Massachusetts because in Rhode Island, what was in Rhode Island? Let's see. In Rhode Island, right here, the government was separate from the church. So that's the difference. So if I were going to restate an answer, I would say the government of Rhode Island was different from that of Massachusetts because in Rhode Island, the government was kept separate from the church. That's my restate and my answer. And actually, we found the quotation in there too. All right, another Puritan who challenged church leaders was Anne Hutchinson. Hutchinson criticized Puritan ministers. She also held meetings in her home where men and women talked about religion. Puritan leaders did not like this. They said that her beliefs went against Puritan teachings and that women should not teach men about religion. Like Roger Williams, Hutchinson was banished and moved to Rhode Island. So, the Puritans founded Massachusetts. But they were very strict about their religious beliefs, and the people that didn't agree with them were kicked out or banished, and they founded Rhode Island that had more religious freedom than Massachusetts did. So my story about this is my great-grandparents, they were in Ireland. So my grandpa immigrated to America, or immigrated to, I think he might have immigrated to Canada before he came to the States. But anyway, so they lived in Ireland, my great-grandparents. And when they lived in Ireland, you had to belong to the Church of Ireland in order to be married, in order to have a funeral, in order to have any type of legal thing done, you had to be part of the church. Now, they didn't think that that church was meeting their like spiritual needs. They wanted to learn more about God. They wanted to learn different things. So what they had to do is they would go to the official church on Sunday mornings, and then on Wednesdays and Sunday nights they would go to a small church that would meet their spiritual needs. And so that's what they did before they came to Canada and United States. So anyway, it's kind of interesting that there were a lot of places that ran into this religious, this religious challenges that they had, where they wanted to worship one way, but the government or where they were living wouldn't allow them to do that. All right, we're going to go ahead and move on now to Connecticut, New Hampshire. Oh, there we go. Connecticut, New Hampshire, and Maine. We've got our subtitle right up here, and we're going to go ahead and read about this. All right. A minister named Thomas Hooker also did not like some of the rules made by the Puritan leaders. He wanted to form a new community where all men could vote, even if they were not church members. In 1636, Hooker led about 100 colonists west to the Connecticut River. There they founded the town of Hartford. Ooh, Hartford is the capital of Connecticut. Colonists looking for good farmland started other towns in the area. These towns joined Hartford to create the colony of Connecticut. Other colonists from Massachusetts Bay moved north and settled the area that became New Hampshire and Maine. Okay, so here's another question. Why did Thomas Hooker decide to form a new colony? Why did he decide to form this new colony? So you're going to find your answer here. I want you to look back in the text. I want you to try to find that. Why did Thomas Hooker decide to form a new colony? All right, if you haven't found the answer yet, I want you to pause the video and go back and make sure you find it, and then unpause it so that you can hear us go over it. So let's start with our restating of the question. Why did Thomas Hooker decide to form a new colony? I want to restate without a question word at the beginning, so I'm going to start with who it's about. So Thomas Hooker decided to form a new colony because, okay. So it says he didn't like some of the rules. So I could say because he didn't like the rules by the Puritan leaders, but I think we should be a little bit more specific. Because what did he want? Ooh, I think this is what we want. Because, so let's restate, Thomas Hooker decided to form a new colony because he wanted to form a new community where all men could vote, even if they were not church members. So he started this new community where people could vote, again, even if they weren't church members, which means that you didn't have to go to a specific church. You didn't have to go to specific church services. You didn't have to worship or believe what the people in charge worshiped or believed. You could still vote even if you didn't agree with everything that your leaders had said. Alrighty, so let's keep going. If we look down at our map right here, we can see some of I believe the red ones are the American Indians, and then we have some of our New England colonies listed here. All right, so we're going to read a little bit about conflicts over land. I would like you to take a minute, fifth graders, and I want you to read this section out loud to your little buddy that you've got with you. So go ahead, I want you to read this out loud. Oh, you can't even see the whole page. There we go. Read this out loud to your buddy, so pause the video and then read this out loud to your buddy. All right, so hopefully you have finished reading that, and I want you to look back in the text. I want you to try to find the answer to here's the question. Why did the American Indians and the colonists have so much conflict over land? Why did they have so much conflict over land? This is a hard question. We're going to see if we can figure it out. Okay, so let's look back. So why do they have conflict over the land? So they, talking about the American Indians, they thought that when they sold land to colonists, they were agreeing to share it. Colonists, however, expected the Indians to move from the land once they sold it. So they had a different understanding. So the colonists understood buying and selling and owning that property. The American Indians didn't have that history. They didn't have that wasn't how they worked, how their culture worked. And so that was one of the big differences, was that they had these cultural differences in their lack of communication in understanding, okay, they're buying it, they want us to move, or are we sharing it? So they just had the colonists and the American Indians have just fundamental differences that were in the way they lived that caused a lot of that conflict, because they didn't understand what they were each other meant when they said buying it or sharing it. There was a lot of confusion there. In the 1630s, a war broke out between colonists and the Pequot? Oh, I hope it's Pequot. I'm not quite sure how to say it. Oh, Pequot Indians. This struggle over land became known as the Pequot War and ended when the colonists killed most of the Pequots. The few surviving Pequots were enslaved or fled. After the Pequot War, more colonists moved onto American Indian lands in New England. Metacomet was a leader of the Wampanoag Nation. He wanted to avoid war, but he believed that his people had to fight to stay on their lands. In 1765, Metacomet, who was known to colonists as King Philip, attacked Massachusetts villages. Fierce fighting spread across New England in a series of battles called King Philip's War. The colonists had more soldiers and better weapons than Metacomet's small army. In 1676, Metacomet was defeated. After the war, colonists killed and enslaved some of the defeated Indians. They forced many others to leave. Few American Indians remained in southeastern New England after the war. Okay, so we're going to look back through our summary real quick. You can read this. I want you to read this out loud to your little buddy. So read this lesson summary out loud with me. Here we go. Religion was an important part of the government in the Massachusetts Bay Colony. That was the first thing. Religion was really important. Next one. Some people disagreed with Puritan leaders and left Massachusetts Bay to form new colonies. Okay, so not everyone agreed with the leaders, so they left and they formed their own colonies. Next one, the settlement of New England led to war with American Indians. Okay, there were a lot of disagreements. There was a lot of misunderstandings based on their culture and understanding those different pieces. There was a lot of challenges there, and those disagreements led to war with each other. All right, so fifth graders, I would like you to please go into Otis, and I want you to please complete the quiz about the reading for today. Make sure you ask your teacher if you have any questions.